Brooks, Roger, Jaden. This is for today's lesson, Tuesday, April 21st. I hope you all are doing well. All right, let's jump right in. We're going to start talking about your paper that you're writing about eruption of Mount Vesuvius, which is in Italy, we talked about before, off the Tyrrhenian Sea, near Naples. Okay, we're going to talk about your outlines. I hope you didn't have too much trouble completing those, but I want to review with you clinchers, first of all. Remember that when you're writing a paragraph, you are to take your final sentence and be sure that it repeats or reflects 2 or 3 words from your topic sentence in that paragraph. Okay, in this case I talked about I'm going to repeat the words fire and probably enjoying. I would add to my topic sentence. Claudius and Cassia were enjoying looking at the fire. All right, in paragraph 2, you have your outline done, I'm sure, so I'm not going to redo that, but a topic sentence I may have here is they went back to their room and the earth was starting to quake. Okay, and then I'd have my paragraph explaining the details, maybe some dialogue, and then down here in the bottom, on my last sentence, it's going to have to be a clincher, so I want to repeat some of the words in my topic sentence. So I might say something like, when they left their room, the whole earth was shaking. So I'm repeating room and shaking and quaking. Notice that it can be a similar word. It doesn't have to be the exact same word that you're repeating. Okay, and on the last paragraph, my topic sentence might be, as they fled in their chariot, the mountain blasted. Okay, and then I'd have my paragraph, maybe some dialogue, some who, which clauses, maybe a alliteration in here, who knows. But on the last sentence, I'm going to repeat fled and mountain. As they fled, they looked back at the mountain of fire. Something like that. Okay, the thing I want to remind you of here is that when you write your last sentence, it has to repeat or reflect 1 to 3 words from your title. So that's why it's often good to wait on your title till you're done with your entire paper, and then you can say, all right, what does my last sentence say, and then make your title something that has some of the same words in it that your final clincher does. Okay? Now, remember, this is it on the forum, but the rough draft for this paper, all 3 paragraphs, is due Monday, April 27th. Okay, that's in less than a week. 3 paragraphs. The final draft is due on Thursday, April 30th. Okay, so you need to get working on this because you have 3 paragraphs to be done by Monday. And normally your assignments are due on Tuesday, but I want you to turn them in on Monday so that I have time to look over them and get them back to you quick enough so that you can do the final story by Thursday. Okay, let's talk about some brainstorming ideas. If you turn to page 116 and 117 in your book, if you don't have your book handy, you can pause the video while you go get it, and then we'll continue. All right. So first of all, we're going to talk about quality adjectives. Use adjectives to describe the following things in this story. Consider what they would look like, what they would sound like, what they would feel like. The beach, for instance. What could you say about the beach? How could you describe the beach that they're on? Remember, in the first paragraph, they're standing on the beach watching the bonfire. All right, you might say that the beach was sunny and hot, or maybe it was rocky, maybe it was sandy, maybe it was crowded and noisy because there were so many other people there celebrating, or maybe it was peaceful and quiet and there was no wind. Okay, so think about how you can describe the beach they were standing on. What about the mountain? Perhaps you could say it was majestic or looming. It was grandiose or towering. And the rocks and the ash that spew out of the mountain, out of the volcano when it erupts. You could describe them as red and black, billowing, bleak, towering, vast, smoky. Use your imagination. Think about what it might look like. All right, what about strong verbs? You use strong verbs to tell what the following might do in a different part of your story. All right, the bonfire. And also, see if you can add an ly adverb to some of your strong verbs. The bonfire, maybe it crackled and roared loudly. There's your ly adverb. Maybe it reached to the sky. Maybe it blazed brightly. There's another ly adverb. Okay, what about the earth? The earth definitely shook, trembled. You could say it groaned angrily or violently. All right, and then as they're fleeing in their chariot, you could say the chariot sped away over the rough, rocky ground. It trembled. It jolted, bumped. Maybe it careened because they were going so fast and they turned a corner, and maybe it jolted along quickly. So add your strong verbs and maybe some ly adverbs to describe what these things are doing. All right. And the mountain, of course. It exploded, it spewed, it shot. Maybe it rumbled. Maybe it shook. Okay. It expelled all the lava and ash and rocks. All right, now down to decorations. On your outline, you'll have decorations that you need to add to your paper. You'll need 3 decorations, and I'm going to show you this on your outline here. All right. You have alliteration. You probably can't read that, but you know it's on your outline. You have conversation, and you have a simile or a metaphor. So you have to have 1 alliteration in your entire paper. Doesn't have to be in every paragraph like the dress-ups. You have to have 1 conversation somewhere in your entire paper. And you have to have at least 1 simile or metaphor, not both, unless you want to. But you have to have 1 of those in your entire paper. So you could put 1 in each paragraph. Maybe paragraph 1 you might have an alliteration. Paragraph 2, maybe you'll have a metaphor. Paragraph 3, maybe some conversation. You can put more than 1 if you want, but you don't have to have more than 1. That's not required. All right, and so think about an alliteration you could use for describing the blast that shot high into the sky. Maybe you could say it was black and billowing, or bleak and burning, a bleak, burning blast. All right, and you can use other words for your alliteration. You don't have to use blast. You can pick any other word in your story that you want, but just use, you want 3 words that begin with the same sound. That's alliteration. All right, and here's some more practice with similes. Sorry about that. What could you do with this? The flames of the bonfire looked like what? Maybe dancing figures or glowing fingers reaching for the sky. Okay, what about the black ash and red rock spewed from the mountain like maybe missiles or bombs going off? Or maybe even fire from a dragon's mouth. Okay, think of ways that you could describe these things, the bonfire, the mountain exploding, with similes. And remember, similes can use the word like, or they can use the word as. So, all right. How about conversation? You have to have at least 1 dialogue in part of your paper. Doesn't have to be in every paragraph, like I said, but you need at least 1 section where you have dialogue. So think about some ways that you could include conversation between the characters in your story. So mine are Claudius and Cassia, and maybe Cassia might say, "Did you feel that?" as they're standing on the beach. And Claudius might say, "Yes, that might be an earthquake." Maybe they're talking about getting out of there quickly, Is it dangerous? Let's go. Make the horses go quicker. Okay, so think about things they might be talking about during this time when they're trying to figure out what's going on and also try to get out of there quickly. Because they've probably never experienced this before, and I'm sure it was crazy. Okay. Now, one more thing I'd like to talk to you about is marking your papers. And you guys have been doing this for a while now, but I haven't stressed it too much, and I want to make sure that you have it down. So this is an example paragraph that I'm going to talk to you about some things, but let me read the paragraph for you first. My family has become completely devoted to an endearing dog named Stanley. Coming into our family 4 years ago, this black, medium-sized bundle of energy has been a model of how to live life with enthusiasm. Stanley passionately enjoys taking daily walks through the neighborhood. And as boring as it may seem, he loves traveling anywhere in the van, even when all he can do is sit and stare out the window for the entire journey. During his morning trip to Caribou Coffee, his tail wags excitedly while we drive through town because he simply enjoys being out and about. Devotedly, he guards the van while I go into Caribou to get my morning pick-me-up and watches intently for my return. More than anything, Stanley cherishes my son Grant. Stanley is earnestly bonded to Grant because Grant took care of Stanley. Grant took care of Stanley the most when he was a puppy. Stanley lives for Grant. Grant, who goes to college each year in Eau Claire, departed last week. Appearing downcast, a melancholy Stanley has been lying gloomily by the door as though he's waiting for Grant to return. Concerned about Stanley's uncharacteristic change in emotion, our family has been pouring on the love, spending our free time snuggling, walking, and driving Stanley all around town. We earnestly hope to restore the cheerful, enthusiastic spirit of our beloved dog. Okay, so, do any of you have a dog like that? Jaden is Samson like that? All right, so the first thing I want to point out to you is the obvious things that are highlighted. These are your dress-ups, okay? Passionately is an ly adverb, so it's labeled over here with ly and it's highlighted. When is a clause opener, an Asia clause opener. Starts with when all he can do is sit and stare out the window for the entire journey. So you're going to put CL there and highlight when. Next we have cherishes. Cherishes is a strong verb, so that's the SV next to it. And if you want to write VB, that would be fine too. All right, then we have because. This is the because clause, so we label that out there as well. And we have a who-which clause, who goes to college each year in Eau Claire. Notice the comma before the who-which clause, comma after the who-which clause. And the WW label right there. Melancholy is a quality adjective labeled with QA, or you could put ADJ there if you want. Melancholy is an adjective describing Stanley. Okay, and those are all of the dress-ups. So label your dress-ups over here and highlight them here. Also, on the other side, we have sentence openers. We've only learned 2 sentence openers so far. Number 2, which is a prepositional opener. In this case, during his morning trip to Caribou Coffee. That's a prepositional phrase, starting with a preposition during. And so you label that with the number 2, and I know, okay, there's the prepositional phrase. And number 3 is an ly adverb opener, which we've been talking about. And there's a comma after that, of course. Label that with number 3. Try to put it on the line directly where the opener occurs. And these other openers, we'll learn possibly one more before the end of the year, but if you take my class next year, we'll learn the rest of these. Okay, the other thing I want to mention is these underline words here. We talked about clinchers a little while ago, that the last sentence in your paragraph has to repeat or reflect 2 to 3 words in your first sentence. So in this case, endearing dog are the 2 words that are repeated, beloved dog. Okay? Endearing and beloved are similar. Again, you don't have to use the exact same word, but something that's getting across the same point. And of course, dog. Okay? And remember that your last sentence also has to clinch with your title. So the words that are repeated are enthusiasm, and down here we have enthusiastic. Can be even a different form of the same word. Also, if you're labeling, when you use a vocabulary word, there aren't any in this particular paragraph, but put VOC out in the margin for your vocabulary words, and then for your decorations, put DEC out in the margin somewhere. That's your alliteration, your dialogue, and your simile or your metaphor. Okay, so this is your example of how to mark your papers on your rough draft. Your final draft should have none of these markings, but your rough draft is because it makes it easier for me to see that you've completed all the tasks on your outline, on your checklist. Okay? Oh, look what I found. Oh, it wouldn't be fun if we didn't say these together, would it? You can probably do it without even looking at the list. See if you can. About, above, across, after, against, along, among, round, out, before. Behind, below, beneath, beside, between, beyond, but, by, concerning, down. During, except for, from, in, inside, into, like, near, of. Off, on, onto, out, outside, over, past, regarding, since, through. To, toward, underneath, under, underneath, until, up, upon, with, within, without. Good job. Okay, you guys are going to study. Part of your homework is to study these. The first 4 sections, the orange, yellow, blue, and pink, and you'll have to write these by memory, about, through, through. Okay? Have someone do that for you just like you've been doing. You guys are doing great with those, by the way. You probably never thought you would be able to say all of them, but you are. Okay, so just to reiterate, your homework is the quiz, study for the quiz, and then to begin writing your paper that's due, the rough draft is due Monday, April 27th. And if you don't feel comfortable writing only 2 drafts, you can write 3. This is what you'll have to do though. You'll write your first draft and have someone proofread it for you and make some suggestions and check your spelling and so forth, punctuation, and then rewrite it as your second draft, and then turn your second draft to me on Monday the 27th. Okay? So I know some people, Brooks, might like to do that instead of just the straight first draft and then the final draft. That gives you a little more time to do some corrections and editing. Okay? And then again, the final draft is due April 30th. Okay? That's all we have for today. I'll see you guys on Thursday with another video. Y'all take care now. Bye-bye.